A very good afternoon to all the students of class 12. Today I'm going to take up the last lesson, written by Alphonse Daudet. Well, Alphonse Daudet was a French novelist and a short story writer. And this lesson is set in the background of the Franco-Prussian War, fought in 1870 to 1871. Okay. In this lesson, we see that the statement that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely comes in very true, because the people, these Prussians, and this war that was led by Bismarck, they had a very dictatorial attitude, and which we come to know from the lesson, because it was not only that they wanted the area of France, but they also insisted on banning French in the two districts of Alsace and Lorraine, because probably they just did not consider it enough to just have power over the boundary or the area or these two districts, but probably they also wanted to rule over the hearts and minds of people. You know, that is why they completely banned the teaching of French, and they wanted German to be taught instead. So as a result, the French teacher from the school was asked to leave, because this language had been banned completely. Because an order had come from Berlin that now no longer will French be taught and German will take its place. So as a result, with this kind of a situation, these people would not only lose their identity, but their unity also. And if they were forced to take over German, naturally, it would not keep them so united also. So their identity, political freedom and identity were really at stake once French was lost. Okay. Now in this chapter, the writer has tried to bring home a very, very important aspect in life, which we all are prone to sometimes, and that is the act of procrastination. Procrastination means to keep postponing things. Like if you are, that you think, we all think that there is plenty of time in life, and life is very long and we have enough time to do everything. So as a result, we do not prioritize things, and we keep postponing things for a later date. And as a result, what happens sometimes, things take a U-turn suddenly, and we are left high and dry, and we do not get time to fulfill all that we intend to fulfill. So procrastination is the main thing that the poet is trying to bring home. And secondly, the impact of war also, how war can affect the commoners also. Like in schools, when French was banned and German was introduced, so people who had just begun to learn, or people who had thought that they had plenty of time to learn French, so as a result, all that was disturbed when this order from Berlin came, because they kept procrastinating. And as we see in the chapter, as we will proceed, we will realize that how procrastination can prove to be a curse. And it's so truly said, Kal kare so aaj kare so ab, pal mein pralay hogi, bahuri karega kab. So it's very, very apt. This is for procrastination. That the minute we think about doing something, we should just do it there and then, and not keep postponing things, not keep delaying things, or not keep finding excuses to do things. Because sometimes, you just don't know what life has in store for you, and what the future has in store for you, and what's next. So what we have in our hands is just the present, so we should at once take up anything that we decide to do, and we should accomplish the task there and then. Okay. Now here we see that there is this little boy, Franz, and we are introduced to him, who's coming to school, but he's not coming very enthusiastically. He's very reluctant, very hesitant to come to school that day. There were two reasons for that, and one was that he had not learnt his grammar lesson that is on participles, and the teacher was supposed to ask him questions on that. So he had not done, he did not know anything about participles. So that's why he was very reluctant to go to school. And as he was coming very, very slowly, he saw various things on the way, and he saw, the day was very bright, blue sky, birds chirping, and it was a perfect day to be outdoors, and which shows that the child must be a nature lover, or he loved to be outdoors. So that was a big temptation for him. To escape school and not go to school and be out in the lap of nature. But then better sense prevailed, and he did move towards school because he was dreading the scolding that he would get from his teacher. Now the teacher is a French teacher who's a very old teacher, and his name is Mr. Hamel. Okay. Now, on the way, there was the town hall, and there a bulletin board had been placed, and that bulletin board was very, very important for everybody in that area, because all the latest news updates and all the orders and all commands and all, which battle was won and which was lost, everything, the latest news update was there on the bulletin board. So when he was walking towards school, he noticed that there was a huge crowd in front of it trying to read something. So he guessed that something fresh has been put up, and that is why everybody had gathered around the bulletin board. And he thought and considered what the matter would be. So as he was trying to move towards school, he must have picked up pace. So there was a blacksmith there. So this blacksmith called out to him and told him that there's no rush and he's not going to be late to school, so he can take it easy. Now at that point of time, Franz thought that the blacksmith was making fun of him and was trying to make fun that he was late to school and making fun of his punctuality. Now here I would just like to say, who is a blacksmith? A blacksmith is a person who makes or works and makes objects of iron. And why do you think he's called a blacksmith? Because in olden days, iron was known as the black metal. So the person working with iron was called a blacksmith. He was also called a smith also. And the place where he worked was called a smithy or a forge. Okay. Now, when he neared school and entered the premises, there was another surprise waiting for him, and that was the unusual scene at school. Usually when he went to school on normal days, there was a lot of noise, chaos, children jumping, running, banging of desks. As you all are aware how it happens in a classroom, in each class. Some children are screaming, some are shouting, some are running, some are banging their desks. So when he neared the school premises, he noticed that the whole scenario had changed that day. There was perfect silence. Everything was still and quiet. And the stillness and quietness has been compared to the silence that he had noticed in the church, usually on Sundays when everybody went to pray for Sunday church. So everything was still, calm and quiet. And all the children were already seated in their places. Nobody was moving around or distracted or, nothing like that. They were all seated in their places. And M. Hamel, the French teacher, he was pacing up and down with the ruler under his arm. It was not in his hand, it was under his arm. And Franz was too frightened to enter, because suddenly it dawned on him that he'd almost reached the class and he was late to school. All the children were already seated and he was a latecomer. And he would get a double scolding, one for coming late and one for when he would be questioned, he would not be able to answer. So he would get a scolding for not having prepared his lesson. But what he thought, things did not happen that way. The classroom and everything, it really surprised Franz, because what happened that Mr. Hamel did not scold him. He was patient with him. He did not scold him. He was unexpectedly kind to him. And he just told him to come and sit down in his place. Then when he sat down, then he noticed that the French teacher was dressed in his Sunday best, the dress that he usually wore on inspection days, a very formal kind of a dress, which was a beautiful green coat, and there was a frilled shirt to it, and an embroidered black silk cap, which he wore on prize days or formal days or inspection days. So the whole school had a very strange and serious look. Then the other thing that he noticed was that along with the children sitting in the classroom, on the back benches were all the elderly people of the village. It had been occupied by all the elderly people of the village. So all this was a little surprising to Franz, because he did not know why they were there and why there was this unusual scenario in school that day. Then it was a bolt out of the blue for everybody, because Mr. Hamel makes a startling revelation. He reveals to them something that is very, very surprising, shocking, astounding, and they were actually taken by surprise. And he announced that this was going to be his last lesson in French that day. And then he also elaborated by saying that orders had been received from Berlin that in future French would not be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine, but only German would be taught to them. And the new teacher would join the next day. Now this was a bolt out of the blue, a thunderbolt. Everybody was taken by surprise, was shocked, surprised. And then it dawned on everybody, and also Franz, that they had wasted so many years in, other pursuits, other things, and they had not paid attention to their French classes. And they had whiled away their time in other things, and they had skipped all their lessons. Now, suddenly there was a remarkable change in Franz also, when this revelation hit him hard. And that day, when the master, he did his duty right till the end. He taught right till the end of school, when it would give over. And that particular day, Franz suddenly realized that he understood everything, because he was receptive, he was listening very carefully, and it seemed as if he wanted to grasp everything that the teacher was saying. And the French books that he had thought to be a nuisance once suddenly seemed very dear to him, because the harsh reality had dawned on him that what had he done by wasting all his time and not being able to learn French so fluently. And at that point of time, his opinion about the teacher also changed. He suddenly had a very pained kind of a feeling for the French teacher also, that he was going to go away. And he forgot all about the teacher's ruler and all about his, strictness. He just forgot all about that had happened in the past. And then it dawned on him why the French teacher was dressed in his Sunday best. And the reason he thought was he must have worn this dress in honor of the last French lesson that he was going to teach that day. It was in honor of the last lesson. Now, the villagers also, as we come to know in the chapter, that when the teacher talks about the people not paying attention, to French and, finding excuses of missing classes, and sometimes these parents, they were more interested in sending their children to the farms and to mills to earn, to earn some extra money, additional, to supplement the income of the house. So suddenly all those people also felt very guilty about the fact that they had been instrumental in keeping children away from classes. And Mr. Hamel himself took on the responsibility also that in between, sometimes when he wanted a holiday or when he wanted to go fishing, he would let the children go. So he does not palm the blame entirely onto the children or the parents, but he said that everybody was responsible for this scenario. Though he was a very good teacher, very strict teacher, he had been teaching in that school for the last 40 years. So he was a great person also, but somehow lapses here and there had occurred. Now all these villagers who were sitting on the last benches, they were there actually to pay a tribute to this old teacher. Old not in terms of age, but seniority. He had been there for 40 long years. He had been there. And as a mark of respect for French, as a mark of respect for the teacher, as a mark of respect for the country, they had all gathered there and they sat on the last benches. Okay, now in between came the most dreaded time, which Franz was actually dreading, and he was asked to recite the rule for participles. And Franz wished that he was able to recite everything fluently, clearly, flawlessly, but unfortunately he bungled it all up, he mixed it all up. But to his surprise, Mr. Mel did not scold him, and he commented upon man's nature of postponing things to a later date and thinking that there's plenty of time in life. And he also makes the audience realize the irony of being Frenchmen but not knowing how to read and write their own language, that is French. So it was highly ironic. So, like I told you, according to Amel's view, everybody was responsible. The parents were ignorant and they were, they sent their children to work on farms or mills, and the children sometimes they escaped from school or they bunked classes and they ran errands here and there. So that was another reason. And he himself also once in a while did give them a day off. Okay. Now, when Mr. Amel started teaching, it seemed as if he, it was coming from his heart, and he was so honest about it, and he was so earnest about it, and he was so sincere in giving that last lesson right from the morning till the afternoon. And he praises French language with the 3 superlatives. Superlatives, in adjectives we have bright, brighter, brightest. So bright is the positive, brighter is the comparative, and brightest is the superlative. So here we see he uses all the superlatives for French. He calls it the clearest language, then he calls it the most beautiful language, and he calls it the most logical language. So all the superlatives he used for French, because he was a French teacher, he had a passion for the language, and he was feeling very sorry about this new order that had come from Berlin. And he advises all the people sitting in the classroom, to guard their language and never forget it, And then he continues with his lesson in grammar. Then he teaches with utmost patience, and next he follows a lesson in writing, and then there are small children also sitting there, and everybody exhibits rare attention, unusual attention. Everybody is listening very attentively, and there's pin drop silence. The silence is so much that you could actually hear the scratching of the pen on paper. Even if there was a distraction, like usually if a beetle comes into the class, buzzing about or something like that, what a ruckus the children create, and they duck and they dive and they scream and they screech. But over here, even when a beetle did enter, nobody made a sound. So that was such an unusual impact on the last day of the French lesson. So everybody exhibited rare attention and concentration. Okay. Then in the midst of this, Franz also suddenly realized that Mr. Mel had given 40 years to the school. He had actually seen the school grow. The desks had worn out, the trees that had been planted, they were now huge trees. So he had actually seen the school grow. So it must be very, very painful for the teacher to leave all of a sudden, in that manner. Okay. Now, Mr. Mel also internally he's very disturbed, he's perturbed, and he's sad about the whole development, but still he keeps up the courage and he keeps teaching to the best of his ability. And he delivers his last lesson in history. And when the lesson comes to a close and the school is about to give over, I mean, he does feel choked, okay? And then he looks around at the window, he looks at the children, he looks at the benches, he looks at the tree outside, as if he's trying to, take in everything to have a great memory of this last day that he was teaching here in this school. Now, the French teacher, Mr. Mel, he tries to arouse the patriotic sentiment of the people. And he tells them that, they must never forget their language, because their language, native language, is the key to prison. Now here they had been overpowered by Prussia. So now just the way they had taken away their language from them, slowly their identity will also go. So he advised the people that they should not let go of their language. Like at home at least they could speak it and they could teach it to the children at home also. Even if it was banned, never mind in schools. But at home at least they should make a desperate attempt, because that was the key to prison. I mean, if they remained united, if their language remained alive, they could see in future some kind of freedom or independence which would come their way. Now, then as the lesson came to a draw, Mr. Mel, when the church clock struck 12 and the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers sounded, and then it was time for prayer, as we have a mention of the Angelus. Now this Angelus is, you're all familiar with praying when we, leave school and all that. Now Angelus was, when they actually prayed, it's a prayer to hail Mary, and also in Roman Catholic institutions, devotion and commitment, they consider the incarnation of Jesus. They commemorate a Roman Catholic devotion and commemoration of the incarnation of Jesus. And Hail Mary was said in the morning, at noon, also at sunset. So since the clock had struck 12, it was noon, so it was time for prayer. Okay. Then when he heard, and especially when the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers sounded, okay, because remember earlier they had given reference when Franz was coming to school, he was distracted by the nature, and he was also distracted by the Prussian soldiers drilling. Now, drilling means that, these soldiers, they have to perform duties, even though there is peacetime or wartime, they have to perform duties. And then they are taught certain battle formations, and they are taught the know-how of various weapons. So that all is included in the drilling purpose. So here also, so when the trumpet sounded, that really was something very painful for Mr. Mel, and he wanted to dismiss the class, and he wanted to say something. He was so overwhelmed with emotions that he couldn't speak. So he just turned around and he wrote on the blackboard, in huge letters, bold letters, he wrote, Vive la France. That means, long live France. Vive la France. Okay, in French, that's the pronunciation. And he dismisses the school with a gesture. So that was the story of the last lesson. So it was the last lesson, but it was a lesson for a lifetime, and something very, very valuable that they had learned that day. So according to this, the theme of the lesson, as I told you in the beginning, the story beautifully highlights or brings home the message of postponing, of learning of things, or postponing any matters as such, because everybody feels there's plenty of time. One never knows when doomsday will come, when the last day will come. So you should try to do everything that you want to do, and because you never know when the end will come, and that will be the last day, and it will bring an end to all your hopes and aspirations. So try to do everything well in times. Now, like these people also, they thought there was plenty of time. They had taken it for granted that, their children will learn and they will learn. But suddenly, out of the blue, this terrible news came, and they were overpowered by the Prussians. And as a result, they had to let go of their language also. Now, this can come, like for sometimes children, when they postpone their studying, they say, oh, there are 3 months for the exam, oh, there are, so many months for the exams. It doesn't matter, we'll be able to catch up, make up. But you never know. Suddenly, supposing you fall ill, you don't have the stamina and the energy to sit up and to learn or to do. And what you had kept for the last day, supposing you're not able to cover it up, then comes the state of panic. When you're in a state of panic, nothing is registered. So as a result, there is more chaos, So the best thing is to take things, prioritize and do the important things first and the less important later on. And whatever you plan to do, do it today. Do it now. That is the most important thing. What better example can you have of this COVID-19? Who had thought that, things would suddenly take such a chaotic turn and life would come to a standstill like this? Nobody, even in their wildest of dreams, had thought that this scenario could be there, So you never know what is there in store for the future. So the best is to keep doing things as they come. Now, another impact that I would like to talk about here is about linguistic chauvinism. You must have heard of the word, like in Aunt Jennifer's, we did male chauvinism, male dominance. So here also, we can talk about linguistic chauvinism. But linguistic chauvinism, to a certain extent, is okay. But if you go and overdo it, then it's not right. Why? Because all languages should command equal respect. All languages, they all have their backgrounds, they all have different cultures, and we learn so much from each other's languages and their cultures and their background. So one must take pride in one's language, yes, definitely, but not, go on the path of linguistic chauvinism. Okay, so that is not right. Then the next point is, it highlights the brutality of war. How war can be brutal and how it can affect our day-to-day lives, and how people behave in insensitive manners when they take on a dictatorial attitude, and they, have no emotions and they have no kindness left in them. They just want to trample people who are, under them. That is the theme. Okay. Now I would like to do a few question and answers with you, please. Okay. The simple ones I'll leave out, like, what was he prepared for the school day? It was a grammar lesson on participles. Then the scenario in the school also, every day it used to be very noisy, chaotic. There used to be hustle and bustle, children running around, and the noise. Another word for noise could be din, D-I-N. The din of opening and closing of desks and lessons being repeated, or the rapping of the teacher's ruler on the table could be heard in the street. But that day, everything was totally quiet and there was no commotion. It was absolutely peaceful. Okay. Now, why was the bulletin board important? The bulletin board, which was there in front of the town hall, it was very, very important because it gave news of the battles, it gave news of the drafts, it gave news of all the orders of the commanding officer, and whatever latest information was there, that would be put up on the board for everybody to see. And what was the last shocking message that was there on the bulletin board, where so many people had thronged to read? It was an order from Berlin. The German rulers had actually banned the teaching of French in these two districts, in district Alsace and Lorraine, and they only wanted German to be taught. Okay. What changes did the order from Berlin cause in school that day? Now, the order from Berlin, it brought about a sea change in the attitude of the Alsatians. Why? Because it suddenly made them think about what they had lost out on, and it brought about a great, love for the language and love for the country. So their patriotic sentiments were also aroused, awakened in them a love for their language also. People who till that day, they had been more concerned about earning their livelihood and supplementing their income and letting the children miss their classes. They suddenly showed an exemplary interest in the last lesson, in learning the language, as if they could grasp everything on that last day. And they came and occupied the back benches also. The children were very, very attentive. Even the small children who were just drawing, even they seemed to be so attentive towards the drawing and so involved, so engrossed in the drawing, as if they were also learning their last lesson in French. And as a result, after listening to all this, there was a certain kind of a regret or a repentance in all of them for what they had done. There was a feeling of gloom, a feeling of guilt, a feeling of repentance, a feeling of remorse on everybody's face for what they had done. Okay. Okay. The people in the story suddenly realize how precious the language is to them. What shows you this? Why does this happen? Now, the language is precious to them is evident, is clear from the way the villagers also came and attended. Mr. Hauser was there with the primer in his hand and, with tears welling up in his eyes, the feeling of guilt and regret and repentance coming in there. And they all were there with an ardent desire to learn everything in one go in the last lesson. And how Franz also regrets at having ignored studying his mother tongue. But the most powerful evidence is Mr. Amel's emotionally charged last lesson. That is the actual proof. This happens as a result of the Prussian rulers ordering the banning of French and replacing it with German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Okay, next question, please. Why didn't Mr. Amel scold Franz for not learning his lesson? He did not scold the narrator because he wanted him to realize his mistake, of putting off his lessons for tomorrow, of procrastinating, of postponing. And such was the nature of all the people who had gathered there. All of them were a party to this kind of a mentality, but now they had been hit hard. And they could no longer learn their own language. Though they were Frenchmen, irony, though they were Frenchmen, but they did not know how to read and write in French, in their own language. So, to make him realize his mistake, he did not scold him. Okay. What does Mr. Amel mean when he says we've all a great deal to reproach ourselves with? This talks about the French teacher voices his repentance that we are all to be blamed for it. So there is repentance through this remark. He felt that it were not only the children alone who were to be blamed, but it was even the adults who had not been serious about learning of their language, and they preferred their children to work on factories and mills, and just sending them to school according to their own convenience. Okay. How was M. Amel's last lesson different from his previous classes? Now, Mr. Amel was a hard taskmaster. He was a strict teacher, but he did not spare the rod in order to make his students learn his lessons. Sometimes he was very, very cross with them, angry with them. He was not quite patient with them. But that day he taught the last lesson with his voice also mellowed down. The ruler was under his arm. It was not rapping on the desk. He was very serious, very grave, but gentle. And instead of being rude and impolite. And he was no longer aggressive and rapping the ruler that day, as he also did not scold Franz for not having learnt his lessons. Okay. Why does the teacher feel the need to safeguard the language, or why should they hold on to their language? So, Amel, instead of making the people of Alsace realize that insisted on making the people realize that what they had lost was a grave loss, that they were Frenchmen, but they did not know how to read or write French. And they had made a big mistake by not paying attention or taking their lessons in time. And he told them to be conscious of the fact that French was the most logical, most beautiful, and the clearest of all languages, and they should guard their language, because that was the key to their prison, and that would be a symbol of their identity. Okay. Next question, please. Okay. When a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to the prison. Comment on the basis of the story, The Last Lesson. Now, political enslavement is a curse for any nation, as it deprives it of its identity. And we Indians know it because we have borne the torture and the ruthless rule of the British Empire. And the natives of the country, they do not enjoy any kind of freedom, be it physical or mental. The ruling government dictates its terms, and they try to, compel them to abide by all their rules and all their policies, whether they are justified or they are not justified. As you all know, class 12 in the lesson Indigo, how they exploited the sharecroppers. So they try to dominate, and they try to do things according to their wish. And the natives cannot live freely, even in their own motherland. There's so much of dominance. And at this kind of enslavement, the language, the mother tongue, keeps the identity alive, keeps the identity of the people alive. It is the language which unites them against the foreigners who have invaded their motherland. And it is the key to their prison, as it is the mother tongue which binds them together, unites them together, and it constantly reminds them of their enslavement, So the reminder is always there that they are enslaved, and they must unite, they must come together, urging them to fight against this domination for the liberation of their motherland. So Mr. Amel also, he reminds the countrymen to safeguard their language, and only then will the coming generations, because it passes on from one generation to the other. So only if they keep their language alive, they keep French alive, only then the coming generations will remain awakened to the fact that they have recognized and maintained their identity through their mother tongue over the years. Okay. Friends thinks, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? When the pigeons were cooing on the rooftop, at that point of time, a thought had struck Franz that, do you think they'll make them sing in German? So, man has this terrible desire for power, and unfortunately, when he achieves it, then he abuses it also, or uses it wantonly. So he believes in an absolute enslavement. So it is not only political dominance that they want, but they just don't want to acquire the land, but they also want to rule over the hearts and minds of people. And, this brings to light the domineering nature of the oppressors. Okay, so Prussians had acquired the district, but that could have been enough for them. But they went a step further, that they banned the teaching of French, and they replaced it with German. So this showed that they wanted to take away the identity of the people, and they also wanted to rule over the hearts and minds of people. Okay. Linguistic chauvinism I've told you about. Okay. Write a note on the character of M. Amel as a teacher. Now, Mr. Amel was a French teacher, and he is an epitome, E-P-I-T-O-M-E. He is an epitome of an ideal teacher in this story, The Last Lesson. Though he is introduced, that as a stereotype teacher who is strict and domineering and all that, but the other side of it was that this was love for learning, and he wanted the students to learn. So that was the reason that he was actually a little dominating or aggressive or strict with them, okay? But at that point of time, the children feel that the teacher is insensitive. But later on, like Franz, all the elders also later on realized what they had lost out on. So he emerges as a true facilitator, a true guide, a true philosopher for his pupils when he teaches his last lesson. And his domineering tone also goes away, and he mellows down, and he teaches in a very normal and a friendly manner. And he also advises all the elderly people to shift their priorities and think about the welfare of their children. And in the end, he also tries to make Franz realize his mistake on postponing his learning when he does not scold him when he bungles up his participles. Okay, so in the end, he tells them to shake off their procrastination, to safeguard their language, which is the key to their prison. Last question, please. Justify the title of the story, The Last Lesson. Now, life is an ongoing process, and as long as man is alive, he feels that there's always plenty of time to do the things that he wants to do, so he keeps postponing them. And but unfortunately, sometimes things that he's oblivious of, or circumstances may change in a jiffy, and he may never be able to do what he actually wants to do, or what he wants to learn, what he wants to achieve, because he keeps postponing things. So, but unfortunately, sometimes things take an ugly turn maybe, and life may cut short his learning, and it may unexpectedly prove to be the last lesson. So in this story also, The Last Lesson, it highlights an identical situation. The people of these two districts, Alsace and Lorraine, they had, postponed learning French for, a long time. Both the children and the adults, they had taken it very lightly. And as a result, when suddenly this war takes place, and the Prussians defeat them and overpower them, and their language is snatched from them, and it's no longer going to be taught in schools. So that was a bolt out of the blue for them, because they were deprived of learning their own language. And this awakened them out of this complacency that they had been in, of taking things lightly. So then they realized, and the message given to them was to safeguard their language right till, not right till, but to safeguard their language forever. For the coming generations also will only be able to do something to liberate their motherland if this language is there. Why? Because that native language will only unite everybody, and will be people will be able to liberate their motherland. So the title is very apt because it evokes a consciousness in the reader that we must do our things, or learn our lessons, or perform whatever we want to do whenever the time we think of it. We should not procrastinate. We should not keep it for a later date, and because one can never apprehend what the future has in store, and which day of life can be the last day, So we have to think on those lines and keep everything going. Okay, though I said last question, but one more. Which moral values of M. Amel's character are highlighted in this lesson? So he's very hardworking, he's devoted, he's compassionate, he loves his subject, and he loved his country, he loved his fellow men, and love for his motherland. Then hard work, patience, determination, and he has the ability to assess one's strengths and weaknesses. And another value that we can learn from him is the ability to touch. Touch means not to touch with the hand, but touch here internally. To touch the heart and the mind and the soul. To touch, move, and to inspire others, as he did on the last day when he took his last French lesson. Okay, I think that's all, children. So I hope you've understood the lesson, and the question answers will help you to understand it even better. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you all.